All right, good morning. We're trying to practice better social distancing in our press conference here this morning. So thank you all for being here with us today. There is no doubt that we are living in unique and challenging times. And while we have faced a number of challenges throughout our history, whether it be wildfires, earthquakes, terrorist attacks, the challenges of the coronavirus are certainly unique and challenging. They're different than in many things in the past. During previous challenges, when we talked about a community coming together, that actually meant a community gathering together. We would gather together in houses of worship. We would gather together in candlelight vigils. We often would literally lean on one another for strength and for comfort. And while the events that have happened have changed the nature of how we come together, it is not changing the nature that we do. And I think the challenges presented to us in coronavirus is that sense of community, that sense of purpose, that sense of coming together is now not rooted in physical proximity to one another, but it is rooted in our common purpose. It is rooted in our common action. Coming together as a community to address the challenges of coronavirus is not one that calls for large rallies. It is not one that calls for large gatherings, but it is one that calls for large collective and community action. The reality is that while coronavirus does not discriminate based on your income or your age or your gender or your religion or your immigration status, it impacts us all. The negative consequences of what happened are most prevalent and most impacted by our most vulnerable communities and populations. Those who are unsheltered and homeless, those who are elderly, those who have underlying health implications. The economic impacts of what we're doing clearly impact our working class communities much greater and much more. And that's why today we are coming together as a community to stand together, to act together, to move together, to set up the San Diego COVID-19 Community Response Fund. This fund is one that will provide help and assistance to those most economically impacted by what is happening. This fund we are kicking off with a generous donation of over $1 million from SDG&E, $300,000 from the San Diego Foundation, so starting it with a total of $1.3 million with additional pledges on the way, some substantive. These funds will be used to provide food security, rental and utility assistance, income replacement or gap funding for our working class families and those who are being hit hardest by the economic challenges of COVID-19. Because again, we know that we have to step up to help one another. We know that we are all in this together. And so today we're asking San Diegans to join us in donating and contributing to this fund. Whether you can donate $10, $100, or $10,000, it is all an affirmative action and step that we can take. Because the reality is, fear will not stop you from getting coronavirus. The virus doesn't detect fear. The only thing that will stop you from getting it is following the advice of public health experts and advocates, the things that we're saying. Fear will also not help anyone who doesn't have the ability to put food on the table. Fear will not help anyone pay the rent. Fear will not help keep anyone in their house. All of us turning that fear into action, both to adhere to the best practices and guidance that we've been given, but also turning it into action that we can take a step to help one another. The action you take to slow contagion helps one another. The action you take to contribute to this fund helps one another. The coronavirus is not the only thing that is contagious. A spirit of giving is contagious. A spirit of empathy is contagious. A spirit of compassion is contagious. A spirit of action is contagious. And so while so many folks are wondering, what is it I can do other than wash my hands? We want you to keep washing your hands. But we also want you to go to the website provided and make a donation if you are able to help your neighbor and your friend and those around you. And I am so incredibly grateful for the San Diego Foundation, for the United Way, for the San Diego and Imperial Counties Labor Council, and for SDG&E for being the founding partners in this effort to launch and kick off this program. To start with $1.3 million that we know will grow and continue to go, will help, is the beginnings of what will help a lot of people. It'll help put us in the strongest position and it'll help in particular those low-wage workers. You know, when hotel occupancy drops to single digits, that impacts those hotel workers. Those who have events that were set up as small businesses, and we see the impact on restaurants, that impacts not only those restaurant owners, it impacts those restaurant workers. And we know that there is a lot of state and federal help that is on the way, but we need to act now. And we also know that when that help arrives, there will be gaps in those, and we want to be able to fill those gaps. And our San Diego Fund is designed to do just that. The website is sandiegofoundation.org/COVID-19. That is where the public can go and make a tax-deductible donation to help make a real difference. I'm pleased next to introduce Mark Stewart from the San Diego Foundation. Mark has been instrumental in the idea, the impetus, the drive to set this up. We've partnered with the foundation on a number of things, perhaps none of them as important or critical as what we are rolling out today. And they will be administering the fund. And so at this point, I'd like to welcome Mark Stewart from the San Diego Foundation.
Good morning. Supervisor Fletcher, thank you so much for your leadership and bringing us together. All of us have witnessed the worldwide paralysis due to a fear of the unknown and the prudent precautions that have been put into place to stem the spread of the COVID-19 virus. But you don't have to look far to see its effects. From Fallbrook to San Ysidro, from Ramona to La Jolla, our normal activity and business as usual has ground to a halt. With that, thousands of residents, our friends, and our neighbors in the service, tourism, arts, and hospitality sectors are now without work for the foreseeable future. These fellow San Diegans, whose work makes our region a great place to live and an incredible place to visit, are now without a way to financially take care of themselves and their families. So employing the old adage, if not us, then who? And if not now, then when? A coalition of philanthropic, government, and business partners have joined together to create the San Diego COVID-19 Community Response Fund. The fund will rapidly deploy flexible resources to community-based organizations at the front lines of the coronavirus outbreak in San Diego County. The fund will receive donations and make emergency grants to nonprofit organizations that have deep roots and strong experience supporting impacted communities, particularly those who are disproportionately affected by this global pandemic and its economic consequences. As the supervisor mentioned, at the launch, our grant funding will focus on three very critical areas: food security, rental utility assistance, and income gap funding. The coalition is working in close collaboration with local government, health agencies, nonprofits, businesses, and other community partners to identify regional needs and assess potential grant recipients. The San Diego Foundation's sole mission is to inspire enduring philanthropy and to enable community solutions to improve the quality of life in our region. As San Diego's leader in disaster philanthropy, be it a wildfire or pandemic, the San Diego Foundation leads the philanthropic response to help survivors recover and rebuild their lives. If you are a San Diego business, company, family, or individual, please consider making a donation to the San Diego COVID Community Response Fund at sdfoundation.org/COVID-19 to help your fellow San Diegans recover from the impacts of coronavirus. We are so grateful to have incredible partners launching this with us, and we know many more will join us in the coming days. So thank you to Supervisor Fletcher, who is the co-chair of the county's COVID subcommittee, and San Diego Gas and Electric for their incredible leadership, and United Way of San Diego, an incredible partner to distribute these dollars to communities that need it the most, and our great also our great partners, the San Diego and Imperial Counties Labor Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate when you call Mark and say, Mark, we have to do something to help vulnerable communities and people that are hurt, how quickly they can turn on setting something up and creating an idea. Next up, I want to introduce Caroline Wynn from SDG&E, because when you call them and you say, hey, we have a good idea, we need some funding and we need some help, they unequivocally, without a doubt, said we will be there with $1 million contribution to start, knowing that we're going to have to go out and continue to raise more. And so we're very pleased to have Caroline Wynn from San Diego Gas and Electric, their Chief Operating Officer, here to share why it's important to them, to share more about their contribution, and we're very grateful to have them with us out of the gate. Caroline?
Let me start by first thanking Supervisor Nathan Fletcher, the San Diego Foundation, the United Way, and the San Diego Imperial Valley Labor Councils. Thank you for your leadership in coming together and setting up this important COVID-19 Community Response Fund. SDG&E is proud to donate $1 million towards this fund because we really believe this fund represents how our community comes together and helps those in need during crisis. There are many people out there hurting. These are our friends, our neighbors, our family, facing job loss, facing food insecurity, or other hardships to no fault of their own. The economic consequences of this pandemic have upended many livelihoods, and the needs out there are enormous, and no single entity can help all of them. But when I think about this private, this public, and nonprofit organizations who are joining forces to come together, I believe that together we can make a difference. We take tremendous pride in serving the San Diego region, not just in delivering day-to-day energy needs, but also in the philanthropic needs of especially those in need. You know, we have a core value at our company, and it's doing the right thing. And this absolutely is doing the right thing for our San Diego community. And we hope that our fellow San Diegans will join in and do what they can to support this fund. Thank you.
Next, I want to welcome up Nancy Sasaki, CEO of the United Way of San Diego, an organization that has a tremendous history and a tremendous future in providing help and assistance to those most in need. They are instrumental in this fund, in the operations of it, in the administration of it, and are really standing in partnership with the San Diego Foundation to make sure we can do the most good for those who need help the most. And so we really appreciate their help and assistance in this time. Please welcome Nancy Sasaki, CEO of the United Way of San Diego.
Still practicing good hygiene there. I really do want to also thank all of the partners that are standing here with me today. We couldn't do it without them. Supervisor Fletcher in the County of San Diego, Mark Stewart with the San Diego Foundation, with SDG&E, and the San Diego and Imperial Counties Labor Council, and Keith. It's just really exciting to be here. United Way of San Diego County is celebrating our 100 years of service in our community. In those 100 years, we have always been here for those who need additional support. We work in partnership with others to align goals and leverage resources in order to transform lives. Hosted by the United Way of San Diego County, the Worker Assistance Fund, in alignment with the San Diego Foundation's COVID-19 Response Fund, will provide flexible resources to individuals impacted by layoffs and reduced working hours implemented by employers in response to these crisis situations and emergencies. People are scared, and not just about COVID-19. Over the weekend, even more changed. Every day it seems like something else happens. People are afraid because they've lost their jobs, they've had their hours cut, they're told to stay at home, they've been told to practice social distancing, and we don't know when it's going to end. Nonprofit organizations are the trusted partners in our community to assist those needing additional support. Some will expand their food distribution. Others, like 211, will be a resource to direct people to appropriate services. And still others are exploring ways to address the myriad of other issues nonprofits and individuals are facing. The Workers Assistance Fund will focus on low-wage workers who need support for a limited but undetermined length of time for utilities, food, written mortgage assistance, and income replacement and gap funding. United Way is uniquely positioned to process and deploy capital quickly and efficiently, especially to individuals. As we currently administer SDG&E's Neighbor to Neighbor Fund, we have rent and mortgage assistance and food distribution already in place. The Workers Assistance Fund is a part of the COVID-19 Response Fund, and United Way will help distribute the funds to both individuals and nonprofit organizations to prevent the need to enter social services systems of care, to help keep people in their homes, and ultimately to prevent homelessness. Thank you very much.
We know the actions that we're taking from a public health standpoint are guided around protecting health and protecting life. We do know that those actions have economic impacts, and as we try to help mitigate those as best as possible, we know that the impact on working families is severe. And so we're pleased to have as a partner and an effort the voice of working families in San Diego County, the individual who represents hundreds of thousands of folks who are out there every day making our society work. And a lot of those folks are the folks today that, as our economic activity in our society begins to contract, are most impacted by the impact of coronavirus. And so I'm pleased to introduce next Keith Maddox with the San Diego and Imperial Labor Council. He is the Executive Secretary Treasurer of both. He is a good friend, and we appreciate their coordination, their collaboration, their contribution, and their help in this effort as we try and guide, help, and support to those who need it most. Keith?
Good morning. As Nathan says, our organization, the San Diego and Imperial Counties Labor Councils, represents over 200,000 working families across this region. And I want to applaud the efforts of these leaders that have come here today and over the last several days to step up and lead, whether it's financially, whether it's with expertise and the reach of our organizations. It is that kind of leadership that we are going to have in the coming days, weeks, and months. Workers are on the front line of this crisis, from our healthcare workers and first responders who are putting themselves into harm's way to help those that are in need, to our home care workers that are protecting our elderly citizens every single day, to our janitors that are stepping up in public spaces to keep it clean and safe, to our workers that are stocking the grocery shelves and checking us out at the grocery stores, and to those that are filling our prescriptions at the drugstore. It is those workers who make up our labor council and our labor movement in San Diego. And it is in these times that union workers come together as a community to help those most in need. We are proud to be a partner with these regional leaders, all stepping up to provide a helping hand. The health crisis is all over the news, and as you've heard here today, it doesn't end there. It has created a jobs crisis and a people crisis. Workers have begun to lose jobs, have their hours scaled back, and in some cases lose their paychecks that support their families. San Diego is a tough place for workers, for seniors, and on working families to make ends meet, to put food on the table and keep a roof over their heads. 3 weeks ago, we began to see the first signs of what was going on here as conventions and hotel meetings and events were beginning to cancel. It was putting thousands of San Diegans out of work overnight. Banquet servers and hotel workers, stagehands and electricians, display workers to dock workers, all without jobs, all without a paycheck at a time that they were most at work and fully staffed. Hotels saw mass cancellations with only 10 to 15% occupancy in many cases, and in some cases, as Nathan alluded to, less than single digits. Now we're seeing our airport with empty gates and only a sprinkling of passengers. Our schools and our child care workers are closing to protect our kids and our families. And in some cases, workers are now having to choose between a paycheck and taking care of their kids. Restaurants and bars are now closing. More workers out of jobs, workers that need those dollars to make ends meet. Other businesses will follow. Paychecks will shrink and in some cases disappear. One thing that we know, the health crisis will get worse in the coming days, and so is the people crisis, the family crisis, and as we've heard here today, the financial crisis. We cannot allow people to go hungry, to lose the roof over their heads, to be without their medications and their health care. Our Labor Council has been on the front lines leading these fights since 1902. It's 118 years of providing a helping hand in times of need. One of our founding principles is an injury to one is an injury to all. It's called solidarity. Solidarity for workers, solidarity for our communities, and for everyone that needs a helping hand. We will get through this, but it's going to take this kind of leadership that you're hearing about here today and support. We need the citizens now to step up, to join us in that same solidarity. To make this work, our coalition needs a helping hand from every San Diegan who has ability to give. As you heard Nathan talk about, if it's $1, if it's $5, $10, or $10,000, that's what it's going to take to get through this crisis. There will be, we need our leaders. We need our corporations and our employers. We need our unions and our individuals to donate. This will be a food crisis, a financial crisis, a housing crisis, and we need to all stand up. Our Labor Council staff and our unions are going to be on the front lines, working with organizations like Nancy's at United Way to be out there with the food distribution that we have to get in the hands of people. We need to help our seniors, we need to help our workers and our communities and our kids. We ask you to go to sandiegofoundation.org/COVID-19 and give what you can. Just give a little. It all adds up and it'll all help. And do it in solidarity. As San Diegans, we can all make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone who's here. And again, we're launching the fund. We are asking the public to join with us. We are asking all of our other corporate partners throughout San Diego County to join with us. I will also be docketing an item for our next board meeting for consideration, where I'll be asking the Board of Supervisors to also make a contribution to this fund from our available county funds. So again, this is a positive, proactive step. This is an action that we can all take. We've given a lot of guidance on actions you can take to stop the spread of coronavirus, and today we're giving an action on something you can do to help those who are most impacted by what's happened, and we hope the public will join with us. At this point, we'd be happy to take a few questions if there are any.